Hi, how are you doing today? This is
Hi,
Jeremy.
good morning, Jeremy. How are you?
I'm doing great.
What is the Trans-Canada Keystone XL pipeline?
The Keystone XL pipeline is a 1,700-mile pipeline that TransCanada, a Canadian company, wants to build to carry tar sands oil from Alberta, Canada, down to port refineries in Texas. The refineries are actually owned often by other countries like Saudi Arabia and Venezuela, as well as some of the big international oil companies.
And why are refining and the sale of dirty tar sands oil so detrimental to the environment?
Well, they're destroying boreal forest in order to get at the tar sands. I mean, they have to squeeze this oil out of 2 tons, 1 barrel of oil out of 2 tons of tar sands. And it takes 4 barrels of clean water in order to get that 1 barrel of oil. And it leaves behind a big toxic residue in strip mine sites where once there was forests that essentially are the safety net for North America's wildlife, particularly migratory birds and ducks and songbirds that travel north. They see these big toxic lakes. It looks good to them. They land and they die.
And how are, agriculture and natural habitats vulnerable to dirty fuels and oil?
Well, in addition to the destruction that is happening in the boreal forest, and it's a vast scale. I mean, the total tar sands footprint could potentially, you could be talking about an area the size of Florida if we developed it all. I got to see it, firsthand last year, and it went as far as the eye can see, and it was really disturbing to see. But in addition to what's happening up there, there's another problem, which is the pipelines that are carrying tar sands are rupturing at a frequent pace. They're hemorrhaging really all over the country, and particularly in Alberta. But we had a big spill in Michigan into the Kalamazoo River a year ago. It still isn't cleaned up. It was almost 1 million gallons. And EPA, who has to clean this up, says it's very difficult to clean up. It's toxic, it's heavy, it sinks to the bottom. It's different than they've dealt with. So we have another problem, which is we have old pipeline standards built for that were designed for conventional oil, and they're not prepared for this new form of oil that's being shipped around.
And how far along is the U.S. Department of State permitting process?
Well, the State Department, which is in charge because it crosses the border with Canada, is in the process of deciding whether this pipeline is in the national interest. If it is in the national interest, they issue a presidential permit. And that could happen anytime as soon as next month. The State Department has been lobbied heavily by Canada. They've wanted to greenlight this pipeline from the beginning, and we're asking President Obama to step up and take charge. It's a presidential permit. It's about the future of energy policy, not for us right now. It's really about a pipeline that will be around 30, 40, 50 years. And how do we move that compass so we're pointing towards clean energy resources that don't run out instead of spending lots of money for the dirtiest fuel on the planet from Canada?
And why has the public opposition to this been unprecedented?
Well, I think oil companies that are behind this project have really relied time and time again on sliding these projects below the radar, and we only notice when things go wrong, like with the Yellowstone River spill, the Michigan spill, Deepwater Horizon disaster in the Gulf. This time, National Wildlife Federation and others are really working to shine a spotlight on this process when it happens. I mean, here's a bad bet for our future and for energy, and people are starting to pay attention. As soon as they get below the bumper sticker slogans used by the oil companies, they realize this is a bad deal for gas prices, it's a bad deal for environment, bad deal for energy. So they've been quite outspoken. We had 12,000 people protesting at the White House. They surrounded the White House, literally arm to arm. And people from all walks of life, not any one political bent, but people are really tired of the same old policies being dictated by oil companies.
And do you have any additional information you'd like to share this morning?
Well, it's really important that since oil companies want this to fly below the radar, that people speak out, and they could go to National Wildlife Federation's website where they get lots of information on tar sands, its impacts on wildlife, its impacts on climate change, and the potential for damage to our water systems. And they can send a note there to President Obama. Clearly, a handwritten note would also help, a phone call. But that website is nwf.org.
Thank you very much, Jeremy. I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you very much for having me on.
Thanks. Have a great afternoon.
You too.
Bye-bye.